Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And it is Saturday evening, and it is currently 7:19 p.m., and I think this might be the last video that I'm going to film today, so I don't really have a whole lot else to do other than go and get something to eat and watch Legendary on HBO Max. So I have 3 meditation books with me today. I have A Year of Positive Thinking by Cindy Spiegel, and I have the 2 Melody Beatty books. I've already looked and pulled up the meditations. I haven't read through them, but I just looked at the titles, and I think all 3 of them are fantastic. So I'm going to try to make it through all 3 meditations today. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer video over here. So let's see. I hope you enjoy it. All right, let's get right into this since it is going to be longer today. The first meditation I'm going to read is from A Year of Positive Thinking, Daily Inspiration, Wisdom, and Courage by Cindy Spiegel. And July 17th, grieve. Grieve in whichever way you feel compelled to. There isn't one way to move through what saddens you. Give yourself the space to feel. Be sad, be angry, be heartbroken, cry or don't. But also take deep breaths and remember the love that brought you to your knees, the smiles that broke your heart wide open, and the moments of laughter and joy. Finding the happiness among the grief can make each difficult moment a bit easier to bear. Show yourself more love than you've ever needed to before, and feel what you feel. And the reason I decided to read this meditation today is I've talked a lot about grief over this channel, you know. I've lost, I feel like in the last 10 years, well, now 14, 15 years, so many friends. I've lost my mother, I've lost my aunt, I've lost my uncle, you know, I just on and on and on. And I feel like I've experienced a lot of loss. And I wouldn't say that I'm any kind of expert on working on grief, because I'm not. And the reality is each loss has been so completely different from the next, you know. And what I have learned is exactly what this meditation says, to just allow myself to feel. There is no blueprint for grieving, right? And I've said this on here before, and I'll say it again. I say it every once in a while. I mess up and I say it, but I don't love the term moving on. I like the term moving through. After my mom passed away, it was probably, I don't know, like a month or 2, and I had a friend of mine whose son had passed away previously, and she had given me this book and stuff like that. Like I think it was a meditation book on grief, actually, and she had written a really nice inscription. And so I just was like sitting there looking at it one day, and all these people were like, you know, you got to move on, and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't really know what to do with that statement. And so I called her up and I talked to her and I said, you know, like all these people are telling me that I need to move on. And she goes, no, we don't really ever move on. We move through the pain, and we remember, we have the memories of them, and we always will, and they'll always be a part of us, you know. But no, you never move on, like from what happened, you know, just completely forget the person, or the job that you left, or the romantic relationship that ended, or the friendship that ended, because we do grieve those things, right? And I think sometimes in life, when I look back on my life, you know, when I have lost somebody because they have passed, sometimes the feelings are different, but I would say sometimes the reckoning of the feelings is easier when somebody has passed, because there's a finality to it. I don't love the word closure either, but I use it sometimes. I do feel like there's more closure when somebody passes away, because you know that there's not an Instagram out there filled with pictures of them going on and living their life. They just don't want you in it anymore, or you're not part of that anymore, you know. And I think that's hard. And any breakup that I've gone through, or friends that we've gone, you know, our separate ways, I've always tried to just remember the good times. You know, one of the things that like is really hard for me is when friends say to me, like if they go through a breakup, like nothing was true in it, nothing was real, and I never mattered to them. And I'm like, that is so not true. Like you guys had great time. Like remember the great times, right? But then be honest with yourself and be realistic that it just didn't work anymore. The relationship didn't work, the friendship didn't work anymore, whatever, right? And be honest with yourself that it was time to move through it and, you know, continue to have better experiences or different experiences down the road. And but I think it's important to remember the good times as well, like the book references. And you know, when I have gone my separate ways with people in the past, like I have had some period of time where I don't have any contact with them, and sometimes never again, you know. Now my last 2 exes, like I do follow them on social media and stuff, but there's not really an emotional attachment there anymore. I'm not a romantic one, obviously, but other than I just wish them the best, you know. And so we're on civil grounds, and my husband's on civil grounds with his ex, and so that's nice, you know, to be able to be mature adults. And it wasn't like that always. Like it took some work to get there, you know. But I think, like, even with, like, friendships that have ended and stuff like that, it's like, I don't always just need to be, like, right there looking and stalking and seeing what the person is doing. Sometimes it's better just to say, you know what, it was great while it lasted and it's time to move on. But I think that, like, that's what's worked for me. For each person, you have to grieve differently. You know, I've talked on here not too long ago about pulling over on the side of the road when a song would come on that reminded me of my mom and just allowing myself to cry. I'm a crier, you know, so I cry. But some people aren't criers. You don't have to cry to mean that your pain is just as serious or strong as mine is, right? Just because somebody's crying doesn't mean that their pain is any stronger or any less than yours is. Some people grieve silently. Some people grieve all alone. Other people grieve publicly and loud, you know? You always see at every funeral the person that breaks down and is like, oh my God, you know? And then you have the person in the back that's just as silent that might be grieving just as hard. And that's okay, right? Like, we all grieve differently. I remember the night before my mom's viewing, a friend of mine, I had given her a list. She's like, what can I do? And I was like, well, I've got to put these CDs together. Because, you know, like, they made a CD, like a DVD of, like, pictures of my mom to play at the viewing throughout her life. And so I got all these pictures together in the funeral home, put that together for me. That was really nice. And I'm sure we paid for it, but it was really nice nonetheless. I still have it. I haven't watched it for a while. Actually, when my mom first passed away, I would watch that video quite a bit, that DVD. I don't know why. Just looking at pictures of her was kind of like a nice way for me to remember her. But anyway, I had given my friend a list of, like, music that was, like, my mom's favorite songs, which ended up being like 6 CDs, you guys. So we drove around that night, she and I and another friend of mine, and we drove around, and both of them had been close with my mom. They knew my mom really well. And we drove around and we talked and we got fountain pops and we laughed and we told stories about my mom and we played the songs and we sang at the top of our lungs, you know, to Bob Dylan and Judy Collins and the song Falling from the movie Once, because my mom loved that song, and, you know, The Way We Were by Barbra Streisand, and all of my mom's favorites. We sat there and we sang them and belted them out, and, you know, it was really, really good. It was really healthy for me to just have that moment, you know, and remember all the good times with my mom. I will tell you something else, too, that really helped. Was my mom passed away on, I believe it was a Wednesday, and we weren't having the viewing until Sunday. It might have been a Thursday, but I think it was a Wednesday. So anyway, we weren't having the viewing until that Sunday. And that Friday night, I was, like, sitting in my apartment, like, literally just, like, spinning my wheels. Like, I was like, I don't know what to do, you know? And I had been around so many people that are like, is there anything I can do for you? I'm so sorry, you know? Which is so nice, right? But, like, after a while, it's just like, I just kind of didn't want to have to, like, I didn't want to have to be that, you know what I mean? I didn't want people to pity me or whatever. I just kind of wanted to be normal for a night. And I called my cousin and I said, and she hadn't gone through this. I don't know where she picked this up from. But I said, I don't know what to do, Caroline. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, I think it might have been, maybe the viewing was on a Monday and it was Saturday night. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I was like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, what would you do any other night? I was like, any other Friday or Saturday night? I'd go out with my friends. And she goes, go out with your friends. I was like, it just feels like so kind of, you know, sacrilegious to go out. She goes, Peter, your mom would want you to go out and have a good time with your friends. Go out and have fun. And I remember I went, and it was weird, and I can remember this one guy came up to me, and he was like, oh, you're part of the Dead Moms Club now? And I was kind of like, oh, I don't know that I like that saying, but okay, thank you. You know, people were trying, but I did end up kind of, like, letting back and, you know, letting down. I don't know that I remember, like, dancing like crazy or anything like that, but it was nice to kind of, like, be part of the world again, you know, and so I think it's important to allow yourself to grieve whatever is specific to you, and don't question it, and don't let other people, if it's, I mean, somebody recently, I talked about this on a vlog, somebody was like, you talk about your mom all the time, like, when are you going to be done talking about your mom? It's been so many years. Like, they said this as a comment. This was not, it was a little while ago, but I said it in a vlog. I was talking about it in a vlog, and I was like, my mom was my mom, like, from birth. Like, I'm probably going to talk about her for the rest of my life, you know, and stories that she told me and things that happened and whatever, and that's okay. And I'm not going to make apologies for that, you know, like, if you have a problem with that, okay. But even if it wasn't my mom, even if it was just a friend of mine that I missed greatly, you know, that's my business. Now, my grieving has changed over time, definitely, you know. One of the things people ask me, like, when they've lost somebody right away is, will the pain hurt this bad forever? No, no pain hurts that bad forever. But there will be days that level you to your knees, that you feel like, I just cannot move on, you know? And then you'll get up and you won't move on. You'll move through. And you'll pick yourself up and you'll remember the good times and you'll move through the pain to the other side. And then you'll have some good days, and there'll be another day that levels you. And eventually, you know, but you never forget. Like, one of my fears, like, probably, I don't know, it was a year or two ago, was that, like, I was forgetting my mom's voice and all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of, like, the importance of that has kind of changed to me over the years. I don't know. Like, I'll always remember how my mom made me feel. Like, I think that's the important, you know, piece to that. So, great meditation. I went on a little bit longer about that than I wanted, because the rest of the meditations are long. So, the next one is from The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty. And July 17th is Love in Words and Actions. Let me have a sip of my coffee really quick. Many of us have confused notions about what it means to be loved and cared about. Many of us were loved and cared for by people who had discrepancies between what they said and did. We may have had a mother or father who said, "I love you" to us, and then abandoned or neglected us, giving us confused ideas about love. Thus, that pattern feels like love, the only love we knew. Some of us may have been cared for by people who provided for our needs and said they loved us, but simultaneously abused or mistreated us. That, then, becomes our idea of love. Some of us may have lived in emotionally sterile environments where people said they loved us, but no feelings or nurturing were available. That may have become our idea of love. We may learn to love others or ourselves the way we have been loved, or we may let others love us the way we have been loved, whether or not that feels good. It's time to let our needs be met in ways that actually work. Unhealthy love may meet some surface needs, but not our need to be loved. We can come to expect congruency in behavior from others. We can diminish the impact of words alone and insist that behavior and words match. We can find the courage, when appropriate, to confront discrepancies in words and actions, not to shame, blame, or find fault, but to help us stay in touch with reality and with our needs. We can give and receive love where behavior matches one's words. We deserve to receive and give the best that love has to offer. Today, I will be open to giving and receiving the healthiest love possible. I will watch for discrepancies between words and behaviors that confuse me and make me feel crazy. When that happens, I will understand that I am not crazy. I am in the midst of a discrepancy. Wow. Wow, goosies. I'm having the goosies. What a great meditation that is, you know? And I think for so many of us, like, I grew up in a home that I knew I was loved. I knew that, right? But when my mom, and she was very affectionate, would say, you know, I love you, and hugs and kisses and tucking me into bed at night. And then there would be the night where I walked in and mom wasn't who I knew she was. She was drunk and she was off the rails and I just didn't know what was going on, right? And then it didn't feel like love. I'm like, you know, or she'd say, I love you, like, or if I was at my dad's house and I would call and she would be, you know, inebriated. And she'd say, and she would, with slurred words, say, I'm so sorry, I love you. And it felt like nothing to me, right? And so I was somebody that over time, you know, the words meant a lot, but like they had to match the feelings, I think. I feel like I've had so many friends of mine that grew up in not just dysfunctional homes, but abusive, toxic homes. And they end up getting in relationships with abusive, toxic people because I think to some degree, and I have heard this from others, so this is what I was told, because if I get into a relationship like that and then I can change that person, I can get them to love me for who I am and stop being that way, then I can fix the past, right? Not just that that's what I know and that's what's comfortable, which I do believe that to be true too. Like when we grow up in chaos, we like chaos. We thrive in chaos. I am somebody that for many years thrived in chaos. I thrived in toxicity, right? I had to learn to like peace and serenity and say, no more am I going to be part of this chaos. I don't want it. I don't invite it. I don't want it in my life. I want peace and serenity today, you know? Because so many of us grew up in chaos and lies and deceit and not knowing what was going on. And so then when we get older, we think that's normal. There's nothing normal about that. No, it's a discrepancy. As this book talks about, as Melody Beatty says, it's a discrepancy of the truth. And so, you know, I think it's really about knowing that you deserve better, that you deserve to be loved, and you deserve to be loved by somebody that the words meet the words match the actions. You know, it's like I had seen this. Tyra Banks, back in the day when she had a talk show. She did a talk show, it's fantastic. It might still be on YouTube somewhere, but she talked about like girls that, I think they were in high school or college, if I remember, and their boyfriends hit them. And she talked about how love does not hurt. And these girls were so defensive of their boyfriends, you know? And she was like, love doesn't hurt. She had a specialist on there talking about this, expert, talking about how like, like, love is not a word that we should be hurt by, you know? And I just remember, like, hearing that and being like, wow, you know? And I was in a very abusive relationship at one point in my life, and extremely, extremely verbally abusive, to the point where, I've talked about this in my vlog, but to the point where I still hear those words today in my head when I look in the mirror on the things that he said to me. I was, at that time, I was probably about, I was really thin. I was like 150 pounds, and like borderline emaciated then. And like, he would make fun of me, and like, he'd be behind me with a friend, like on the escalator, and he would say things. He'd be like, look at your fat ass, you know. He'd be like, gosh, how, I mean, it just was nonstop, you know. And I think back of that, and it was more than that. It was a lot of things that he said, and I didn't feel safe in that relationship, physically or emotionally or verbally. It just was a lot. And I look back on that and I think, you know, the question that I ask myself a lot looking back on that today is, why did I think that was love? I would have done anything. And the thing is that he kind of gave me love in pieces and crumbs, you know? Like, he would say all that, and then, like, in a silent moment, you know, like, he would be, like, real nice to me for just, like, a couple minutes. I almost kind of begged for his love. Like, that's the thing that irritates me the most when I look back on that period of my life, of which I've done a lot of work about this in counseling and therapy and with my sponsor. You know, when I look back on that specific relationship, it's like he would kind of give me these crumbs, you know, of love. And I look at that and I think, why was I willing to accept that, you know? And then in that moment, just to be in the shadow of the spotlight that shone on him, that I thought, I just felt like amazing, right? You know, the things I tolerated in that relationship, when I look back on it, I'm just like, I'm like sitting here and I'm like going through the things that he did, and I don't even want to share them, because it's like, I mean, one of the things is that, like, he would say he was going to work out, and every time he went to go work out, he was going to go hook up with somebody else, and I knew that, and I was okay with that. You know? And then I would go stand with him in a bar and be like, I'm his boyfriend, when I knew that everybody knew that he was going to sleep with somebody else. But it was just the fact that I wanted him so bad, and he allowed me to, like, be on his shoulder. When I look in retrospect, like, he lived in a different city. All he really wanted was a place to stay for the night. Like, he would call me his boyfriend, but I was probably a joke behind the scenes, and he was being, I look back on it and I just think, God, Peter, like. And that wasn't during my active addiction. It was actually the year and a half before I got sober. And I was obsessed with him. Like, when I got into treatment, you know, like, my sponsor, or not my sponsor, my counselor in treatment was like, I was like calling and trying to like keep tabs on where he was and who he was dating. And he'd started dating somebody like that. And I was so mad, you know. And my counselor in treatment was like, what is going on here? It was just like, and I really think that part of it, because he was a person that introduced me to a certain drug. I think that I associated him with all of that, and I don't know, I just like look back on that and I think, Peter, you know, and it wasn't like I got out of that relationship and I changed overnight and I thought, oh, like, you know, I deserve so much better and I'm a strong, confident person. I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel strong and confident for many years. There are days that I still question it. There are days that I look in the mirror and I still hear what he had to say to me, you know. There are days that I still hear that, and I think, why do you allow that to rent space in your head for free today? So these things that we say to people, the way that we talk to people, we have the power to really hurt somebody or lift them up. It's up to us, you know? And those words that we use with our children when they're young, like, I look back on that. Tucker's being so sweet. He's like right here wanting some pets. When I look back on that, you know, like, my mom always said very loving things to me, but the discrepancies, like Melody Beatty talks about, there were so many discrepancies, you know, because it's like, you tell me that you love me and your mom with Little House on the Prairie and chili dinner one night and tucking me into bed, and then the next night I come in and you and your friends are drinking and you're like, it's adult time, right? Like, there was just a lot of discrepancies. And so I don't know, it's hard. I always, like, in the back of my head, I defend my mom. For a long time, I was going to work on this book that was going to parallel our addictions side by side. And I always referred to my mom as the pretty drinker, because she always looked so pretty. She always looked so put together, right? But inside, she was just totally a mess. And at the end of the night, I would see it. You know, she'd sit there and she'd still be looking pretty and everything, but, like, she'd be slurring and, you know, whatever. And it was like this just pretty mess is what it was. Anyway, great meditation, and I obviously went on and on and on about that too long. Well, maybe not too long, but... All right, the last one is from Melody Beatty's Journey to the Heart. July 17th. How long is this one? Put yourself on equal ground. July 17th, put yourself on equal ground. I sat on the booth across from my friend. I was fiddling with an empty soda can in front of me while we discussed the subject of power. Suddenly, he snatched the can away from me and began tossing it. I feel like I read this one last year. I probably did. Suddenly, he snatched the can away from me and began tossing it in the air, catching it, then tossing it up again. See how easy it is to take your power, he said. See how you just gave it to me? I watched, amazed at how quickly I had relinquished my power, how vulnerable I was to the world around me. Then my friend smiled and stopped juggling the can. Relax, he said. It's an illusion. That's not really your power. It's an empty can. And it's an illusion that anyone can take your power away from you. Wow. Each of us has an unlimited supply of power available. The power to think, to feel, to take care of ourselves. The power to open our hearts, love, be gentle, honest, and kind. We each have the power to be clear and to trust and follow the guidance of our own hearts. Part of our journey to freedom, an important part, is equalizing our relationships. For many years, we may have believed the scales were tipped one way or the other in our work and love relationships. We may have believed that others knew a great deal more than we did, or we may have begun to believe that we had all the answers. But no one has our power. That's an illusion. So much so that sometimes the person we believe is more powerful than us may be looking at us thinking we're the ones pulling the strings. Remember, if you give up your power or decide that someone has power over you, you'll begin grousing, sabotaging, and doing sneaky little things to equalize that relationship. To feel like you have your power, there's another way, a better way, one that will help you heal. Put yourself on equal ground. Wow, I love that. I didn't think about that before. Each of us has an unlimited supply of power available, the power to think, to feel, to take care of ourselves, the power to open our hearts, love, be gentle, honest, and kind. We each have the power to be clear and to trust, to follow the guidance of our own hearts. And it's an illusion that anyone can take your power away from you. You know, I'm not a big believer that somebody can take my power away from me, but I am a believer that, and I don't mean like physical power, I'm talking about like, discussion or arguments or whatever, but I do believe that I can give my power away to people in relationships like I just talked about, If you look at that relationship, in very serious situations like what I was talking about, please seek professional help before you choose to make any decisions. But in that situation that I was in, I gave him all of my power. I literally gave him all of my power to walk all over me. I didn't have to accept that. I didn't, And in all honesty, had I ended the relationship and said, get out and pack your bags, which I think I eventually did, I don't really, it's weird. I kind of remember, I was like in the midst of my addiction. I remember bits and pieces of like the last night, but not much. I just remember it was not pretty. And, but had I said like, get out and go find somebody else, he probably would have like that next night, So I look at that and it's like, but there have been people in my life that I've given a lot of power to, or let them rent space for free in my head. That's the other thing, is when there are people out there that are going on and they're living their best life. Don't you love that saying, your best life? They're living their best life and they don't even think about me. I'm not on their radar or anything. And I have been over here spinning my wheels thinking about, well, what are they doing and what are this and whatever. Who cares? Who cares, Once you're out of my life, be gone before somebody drops the house on you. Yes, it's fine to remember the good times and look at a picture every once in a while and look at it and then set it to the side and move through that pain, and say, okay, they're no longer in my life. I wish them the best, and now I'm going to move on to I'm going to go hang out with the people that are in my life today, and not stay stuck on allowing people to rent space in my head for free. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to allow people to rent space for free in your head where you just obsess and think about them all the time, And I think that's sometimes where we do need to talk to somebody where it's like, I literally cannot stop thinking about this person. Like, I really, really need help with this, to go and talk it through and let that out. And that's okay, And I just think that, like, when we go through these, especially romantic relationships with people, I think when somebody passes away, it's a different thing. I think, like, the grieving that you're going to go through with somebody passing away is so completely different from, like, a romantic relationship or a friendship, where it's like I said, you can see them moving on with their lives on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and things like that, Maybe not so much Twitter, but, Instagram and Facebook, seeing them go on with their lives, and you feel like you have to send messages. I had a friend of mine, she was like, well, I can see that they went on this family reunion and blah, 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 whatever. And they had dated for like 3 years. And I said, and they had no kids together. And I said, why are you still friends with all of his family? Well, I have, in case I want to stay in touch with them, I have to find out what's going on with their family. I said, you are using that as a way to keep tabs on what is going on with him. And she goes, no, I'm not. And I go, yeah, you are. You just told me about this family reunion that he went on with his family. I said, it would be, and this was a friend of mine that just like nonstop talked about her ex. And I said, it would be healthier for you if you just like unfriended those people. And she goes, I can't unfriend them. Like, I have relationships with those people. I said, he is going to eventually meet somebody else and probably marry that person. And they're going to be part of that family. You're not part of that family anymore. And she looked at me with like the most, like I had like said the most hurtful thing to her in the entire world. But I think that's the thing, is sometimes we live in this like illusion or disillusion of the world that we think it's going to be a certain way. It's not. Like, you know, it's like, it's time to like unfriend those people and set some boundaries and limits and start living your life for you. It's time to start living your life for you. And it takes time. It's hard sometimes to do that, you know. I can't believe I made it through all 3 meditations today. So anyway, let me know what you think about those in the comment section below. I hope that you guys are enjoying your weekend. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.